Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us from wherever you're joining us around the world. This podcast is listened on so many continents and also countless downloads every week. We are just thrilled with all our listeners enjoying it each week. And we know you never want to miss any Mile High Tech. So make sure you hit subscribe, whether you're watching or listening, whether you're listening on iTunes or watching on YouTube or whatever channel you are on. Today, we are grateful to have as a return guest, Dr. Donny Epstein. He graduated over 40 years ago from New York NYCC, established 2 practices in New York, left private practice to teach, to write, develop models of healing, which have been researched around the world in many disciplines. And he's personally attended to roughly a quarter million people in his career with his approach in all 7 continents. His models and concepts of network spinal and so much more have reached so many lives and researched in 10 universities. People have gotten their master's degrees and PhD degrees in engineering mathematics, studying network spinal and the phenomenon related to it. He's truly a chiropractic master, one of our chiropractic profession's living legends, and his work is influencing so many other fields. So we're grateful to have him on this episode of the Mile High Podcast. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Donny.
It's my pleasure, Dr. Danny.
Well, we're glad to have you here. And we are just coming off Mile High, where you were a few weeks ago and shared live. Had quite the energy throughout the weekend. And the theme was the Matrix. Can you share anything about what your experience was at Mile High this year?
Well, first of all, the experience of Mile High each year gets more profound and deeper. It seems that the attraction is a field, it's a phenomenon. Phenomenons are like a meme of conscious. It's a field that you've established to nurture. You and Michelle established to nurture. The team is nurtured. And what's really unique and really, really exciting and unique about it is that, you have so many events which are like motivation events, rah-rah type things, get people excited. It doesn't matter what you do, it's all great. Chiropractic is great, that's great. This takes another level of your accountability, not just adjusting spines, accountability to the person, accountability to healing, accountability to vision of chiropractic, which is not about adjusting subluxations, adjusting subluxations, the strategy to reach that objective. And that's a really big thing.
Well, thank you for saying that. And that's one of the things that we heard over and over again was how coherent, congruent, and the message beyond a rah-rah event, but more really uplifting people. And that came through a lot this particular one, for sure. And we heard that a lot from attendees. Now, you are always doing things. I want to start off with this because you just launched a program on the pain of avoiding pain. And it's the first episode or segment just happened and people raved about it. Can you talk a little bit about what that means, the pain of avoiding pain? And we will certainly put in the notes with this how people can get access to that. But what's meant by the pain of avoiding pain?
Well, first of all, the series itself is about pain being different than you know about. It's not what you think it is. It's a different phenomenon. It's the other side of pain. So this is essential for doctors, practice members, patients, staff to really know that pain itself, whether it's physical or not, is an indication of just one simple thing. Indication there's not enough available energy for innate intelligence to assemble the forces to organize, to keep you at the level you're at as necessary. And many people's pain is because they're at that level and that level no longer works. You have a business, you have anything you have. If you use what you used to do before, at the next level, it just won't work. You could say, well, I have a baby and the baby's really great. I love the baby so much. Oh, I love cleaning the diapers. Okay, well, If you're married now and your husband did that, you won't be so happy about it. You won't be so happy about that. So because at different levels, there's different levels of expectation. So pain, I define as any uncomfortable situation or experience that interrupts your ability to experience the magic or the sacredness of the moment. So if you have to get on your phone to answer something because it beeps in the middle of a conversation, it's pain. If you have to go running and only play the songs that you like for your certainty, rather than taking in the sounds around you, that's pain. If you're in a beautiful place or with someone that you really enjoy, and you're focused on what work you haven't done, what's doing with the money, whatever, that's pain. Because something is binding the energy, which means there's not enough adaptive energy allowed for innate intelligence to assemble the forces necessary. So there are different types of pain. I've identified 4 different types of pain, and none of them are about the circumstance. Get this. Generally, overall, if you map it out, the bigger picture, there's no consistent relationship between the size of the coronary artery and the symptoms. There's no consistent relationship between disc herniation or DJD, or a nerve compression C to IVF, and pain. There's no consistent relationship. What happens when life is in conflict? When life does not match what you'd like it to be? When your sense of who you are, your identity is challenged? All those things, those psychosocial, those epigenetic factors converging, drop the energy. You go towards entropy rather than building up syntropy. Are you going back to universal forces taking over rather than just the intelligence? And you're not building up to a higher level. So one of the first things to do is to ask, pain, what type of pain? The first type of pain is the pain of wanting to avoid pain. And that's what most people do with the drugs and different things they do. Many come to chiropractors for that. And that's the easiest type of pain because it doesn't take, it is just simply to be with not the pain, but the pain is there for a reason. And don't ask why.
Right.
Just assume it's there for a reason. And it's there because the energetic strategy, unconsciously and or consciously using for experiencing the world, for adapting, to organizing, for the meaning you give things, is inconsistent with a healthy life. And it's interesting that the pain of avoiding pain also really there's different aspects of innate intelligence. I realize there are really different aspects of it, different elements. They have different mathematical signatures when I look at surface EMG. The bio and emotional intelligence develop before the thinking mind develops. You can get this. And it involves the connective tissue, the ligaments. It involves your ability to have enough metabolic energy. Now, just so you know, you do all the things, take all the supplements you want, all the exercise, but those things help the bioenergy, emotional intelligence. But that's not the highest level of energy. When you're excited about something, you're on purpose. You have more energy than if you pop the pills or whatever it is, because there's higher forces converging. So the first type of pain is the pain of wanting to avoid pain. Doc, get rid of it. I don't like it. I don't like the pain. Well, at that point, you're talking to an infant or child. There's no adult there. Whatever lecture you give, they're not going to hear it. All they want to do, mommy, daddy, make this go away. That's all they want to do. And you have to understand that's what it's associated with. And there's not enough energy for the biointelligence or the emotional intelligence. And we say, wow, innate controls everything it does. The nervous system controls everything. There's no control system. There's no real one control system. Let's start with this. Okay, that's neuropeptides, the chemicals of emotion, are secreted by so many cells of the body. It's secreted by the white blood cells, by the nerves. That means the nerve system is also a gland, right? The immune system is a gland. The neuropeptides released to the heart regulate the pituitary. Okay, so what's controlling which? The signals of the bioenergetic intelligence that sends us a vibrational signal that regulates is about the same speed as nerve impulses, and sometimes faster. So we think the nerve impulse controls everything. No, it's the mental impulse, which uses all the structures that universal intelligence also goes with. So the first type of pain is the pain of avoiding pain. And chances are, if you're in a relationship, if you had kids, you had to work through that a long time ago. Okay, that's it. But you go into the state of enough subluxation, fight or fright, your body goes into a posture of defense. The cortex gets disconnected and you're in an automatic loop behind that. That's the first type of pain. So it's not about the situation. It's not about the disease process. Because you take a look at people who you say the spirits of most pain in the world. But now life's in conflict. Not enough adaptive energy. Again, intelligence is throwing them under the bus. Educated intelligence throwing them under the bus. Selling the pain. I shouldn't be feeling this. Well, you should be feeling it. Why? Because you're feeling it. What you do with it is a different story. All of this involves what I call AAA. Become aware of the energetic as it is, without the hunger to transform it, to change it, to let go of it, to make it go away, or even to understand it. But I have to find the meaning of the pain. That's another defense strategy, to find meaning as compared to just experience it. The feminine energy knows that. So many times she'll say, you don't understand me. You don't understand me. I want you to understand me. And then the masculine says, well, I'll tell you exactly what I said, and it get worse off. What she's saying was, be with me. Just hear me beyond the words. Sense me. That's the basic skill we have. That's what children should know before they learn to read. Each type of pain gets more intense because it involves a greater bandwidth the nervous system has to deal with. And what happens is energy is needed to organize information into useful purposes that eventually we interpret as meaning. Nothing is what you think it is. Let me start with that. The second type of pain is the pain of not being able to match a circumstance. You don't understand what happened on my plate. My receptionist just left. I have this, all these type of things. You don't understand. Ask, how are you doing? How could I do? My receptionist left. My associate left. The money didn't come in. And I asked, how are you doing? You see, there's a symptom. Then there's a concern about the symptom. Then there's the person. That's three different things.
Right.
When a person is really ill and in pain, if it's physical or not, if it shows up physically, then what happens is they have a concern. The symptom does not draw them into the office, and the symptom going away will not stop it. They'll just put a different character in the same script. It is the concern that draws them, and it's the concern that perpetuates chronic pain. So, what do you mean? Well, the pain, what if it doesn't go away? What if it doesn't? Well, it has to. And if it doesn't, and what if that doesn't happen? Well, finally, then I'll be a bum like my father, or no one will love me, or everyone will run away. Do you think that's going to change by treating a symptom? That's what they're running away from. Another thing will show up for the same thing. You must acknowledge the concern the person has, and that alone can change the pain threshold, and easy to adjust. So the second type of pain involves the conditioned self. Am I liked? Will I fit in? Will I be liked to be accepted? Up to the emotional, up to the thalamus. When you drive a car, it's autopilot. You're not asking why. It's all about where, when, what, and how. Those are all questions of the lower thinking mind. And to do that, you function as a role, basically, as a chiropractor, as a teacher, as a student, and then whatever you've been conditioned for to be applauded or punished for, that's what's running the show. And if you have traumas at certain times in your life when you got subluxated, That's the time the information got truncated. You never got to the other side of it. And your physiology, your motor strategy is linked to that. So the second pain is not good to manage your circumstance. Well, why should it be so stressful? I can't pay the bills. What? So you can't pay the bills? No, it's dead. So who the freak cares, really? It's like, come on. But I can't do this. You think 5 years from now, you're going to give a shit whether you do that or not? Come on. That's insult. But the check balance, because all these things mean I'm not enough. I'm not getting accepted. I'm not loved. And that's what they're running away from. So you change the circumstance. What people consistently do is they adapt their environment to the sick state. And when you can't change yourself, you go change everyone else. So that second type of pain is more intense than the first. The first pain, avoiding pain, you tell a kid sometimes, hey, look over there, they forget about it. Okay. That pain involves more bandwidth because now it's not just pre-rational, it includes up to the middle brain, up to the thalamus, your conditioned brain that allows you to automatically roll, act, drive a car, etc. That's when you're in the matrix. Because the matrix is a conditioned field of what you're supposed to think and feel. And the internet and social media is a perfect way of keeping you in that. Right, wrong, good, bad, punish you, reward you. It's black and white, there's no gray.
Right.
Okay. And so that's where the trolls live, okay, and die in that place. What you need to do with the pain of not managing circumstances, change the circumstance. Pain goes away. Guess what? It follows you into another circumstance, the next relationship, next thing. That's the time the person realizes, I'm going to get divorced. You're going to find the same thing again because wherever you go, there you are. It's the same you interpreting the world.
Right.
That's what pain is. So you think you have to change the circumstance. That pain gets more intense, and that hooks into the sympathetics right there with the fight or flight response. Because if you're not liked and not accepted in most parts of the world, it means you won't be in the culture, be excommunicated, or you'll be in prison, whatever's going to happen. So there's a natural thought for that. And since most of us have not been more than 2 or 3 generations from a major world war, ethnic cleansing, or some other thing, then we're conditioned really epigenetically through the epienergetics, the energy it provides to that, to make it as if it's like threat and stress if we're not like to support it. Now, the third type of pain, which gets more intense, I mean, really intense, it wakes you up at night, it disturbs you physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. That is the pain of not making progress fast enough. By this time, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. At this time, I should have earned this amount of money. Because what happened is you became a you to avoid feeling like you're not a you. Okay? You have to be somebody because you're nobody. In order to not feel like you are nobody, you have to become somebody. And you're conditioned to what you're supposed to like and not in relationship with everything else. And your motor strategies locking that in. When those motor strategies change, you don't have the attachment to it. And then you develop a sense of self, which now you build it. I'm going to get my chiropractic degree, my medical degree. I'm going to be a psychologist. I'm going to be, because now if I'm this, then the society will really like me. And you get BS, MS, more the same, PhD, piled higher and deeper. You get more bound up and think the way that type of person's supposed to think. And you do everything you can to show you're enough.
Right.
If you finally saw the number of patients you wanted to see, you finally got your degree, you got a chiropractic college. Did that finally make you feel like you're enough? What about having practice members? No. What a busier practice. There's nothing you'll ever accomplish at any phase of your life that'll make you feel happy or joyous more than a day, a week the most, after 20, 30 years. So what's happening to you that's seeing the world requires a change in your identity, who you are, how you're seeing the world. That's when whether you take care of somebody, a symptom keeps coming over, the conditions keeps happening. The person gets surgery, they have adverse consequence. After third surgery, I still have it because it's requiring that the you observing the world be upgraded to allow for greater bandwidth to get to the frontal lobe of the cortex to say, who the freak is this? It requires you to reinvent yourself. And at certain points in your life, it happens. So for example, for the man, generally about man, generally around 38, 40 to about 55 in that zone, you must realize that who you've been is a fraud. It's wrong. It's never what you're meant to be. It's helped you finally be approved. And it's a work that you ask.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't have the spinal strategies to let the energy go between the brain and the body effectively, well, then it's a challenge. This is where the chiropractor is going to. They use more force on the person who wants to pop more vertebrae. So he'll be free. But it's the same you doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Different than adjusting people with what they need.
Mm-hmm. And so, and you go in this in depth in this 4 or 5 part series that you're doing?
4 part series, yes. Yes. Well, we're doing, then what I'm doing, the last one, is the one that people kill themselves over. And that's a spiritual. Okay. And that's where they don't think they have a gift to give. And have no contribution to make. Okay. And they get depressed when they think there's no gifts, that the people are not receiving the gifts. When you feel you're worthless, you have no gifts left to give. That's the most painful. And that's really a spiritual quality that requires you to be humbled, to go back to the pain, the first pain, and work your way up again there. So I talk about this in a Facebook Live, but I then go about talking to people using different strategies. And I have a big bag of tricks. Okay, so I could talk about a spinal strategy change, so I could talk about a healing strategy. What I want people to do in this call is to recognize that the pain is because of the way they're experiencing life. And as soon as they have more energy, adaptive energy available, by shifting their focus in different ways, and the civil gets up to the cortex suddenly, they can reorganize. And most people's chronic pain is significantly reduced or gone, but that's not the key. I don't want to tell them that's going to happen. What's going to happen, or what's going to happen, is they're going to get a different meaning on their life. Without a change in meaning, there's no healing. So I will say things to people such as this. Okay, if you have pain, you understand. I'm in a relationship now with my husband. Is doing the same thing my last husband did. It's been 15 years. I've been in a situation, and I realize the person's going from the past. Tell me, oh, this new lover you have. Where's the new lover? Oh, I'm seeing in the future. I found different patterns. So what if you just experience this from the future instead of the past? Because every time you think of the past, you drop your adaptive energy, or the future. Or I'm experiencing this person, and my spine is this way. Well, that way is the way you experience the pain. What if you change the spine to this position? It's somewhat just what I call my alchemy strategies. And what I wanted to show people is simple. All information change, all data change, all the ability to come up with new ideas to heal requires more available energy. And either you get that by having a crap beat at you, by having breakdown, like ripped apart,
Mm-hmm.
or you can choose it by being more aware, by being aware of how innate works, what your strategies are. So I showed you a few strategies, and there are people who have been so messed up for many years, and it changes. So if you, for example, say somebody complains to you, like, it hurts so much, what's your concern? My back hurts. That's not the concern. That's just someone's concern. I don't know what the concern is. Well, you have to tell them the concern. Because it's a concern what brings you here. What if it doesn't go away? And then, well, finally, they don't want to say they cry. You don't have to go through that, but I'm just giving you an example. And you ask, hey, by the way, what's the greatest day in your life that happened? Could happen. The person goes, ah. And when they're in that position, you just say, by the way, tell me about the pain. Oh, there it is. And the idea is, if you help someone experience an energy differential, which a chiropractic adjustment should do, there's a greater available energy that's been bound up with the way the spine nerve system is. As soon as that happens, there's an information differential, go through the steps of normal complete cycle, and suddenly there's more energy available.
Mm-hmm.
You could speak to the person for everything you want, but until that happens, until they have the experience that, oh my God, I was just depressed. Now I'm not depressed. Now, these are strategies I teach you to use with your practice members also. Put your hands over here and tell me about the problem. Now put your hands up here. We did this at Mile High. And there's a difference. At Mile High, I also got into a state of more coherent energy. I asked people to focus on what's most problematic. You're like, people have their hands up. All I did is got myself coherent, because innate will connect coherence with coherence, and not one person in the room was able to maintain the thought about painful things. Oh my God, what's that? So it's really about the circumstances, how much energy you have available, and organizing wisdom to express.
Mm-hmm.
So you may say, but he's not teaching people about chiropractic. No, okay, no. I'm teaching about how life goes, how the system organizes, how it affects that. Then all you have to do in that picture is say, you see this? Now we're going to take a look at how, with all the systems we're using and assessing for, how you have more energy available and efficient to this, and how the nervous system connects to this field around us, which is really the cloud that has all the information potential for anyone. And this is called a mental impulse, which takes all the information necessary and plucks out what you need. But the way you do it is energy. You light a match to a piece of wood, the wood falls, turns to ash.
Mm-hmm.
These systems have syntropy, it builds up to something. So all pain, physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, spiritually, is all because there's not enough energy to organize, and we get stuck in a sensory modal loop that reinforces it. That's what developed my development network from that, recognizing that, how the dominant patterns liberated, and we developed the wave which suspends those sensory motor anchors to that dominant pattern. It's not the only thing it does, but it does it consistent with each person's individual unique nature. And my hope was that what I brought will revolutionize what chiropractors do and how they practice, but it has to be less about chiropractic and more about how does the system organize, how does it upgrade? And then the purpose of your care is to correct something? No, can't correct anything. Who the heck are you? Tell me how brown cows eat green grass and make white milk. Okay, yeah. Instead, we have the gift, the opportunity, humbly, the ability to find out where do we have to interact with this being. So organized force of life, in intelligence, I call them creation's code for popularity. The creation's codes could have enough energy to organize as only it knows how to organize.
Well,
that was good.
This is going to be some incredible information for people. They're going to listen to this over and over again, and I know they're going to want to get in on that. The pain of avoiding pain. I have two questions to ask relative to this that really spurred from that. Number one, and let's get right to them. One is, and as I said, we'll put in the notes how people can access this series, because it will help them navigate healing help them to navigate healing with their practice members, and helping their practice members understand and navigate their experiences in their care, whatever type of care they're having. One, it makes me think, when we talked about the matrix during Mile High, that all of this could be living a matrix, that they're living a matrix so often in many different things in their life.
Yes, well, they're one of the most brilliant movies I've ever seen, Matrix. Just assume that we are right now living in a computer program. Just, the powers to be, the elite, is looking to connect our brains to that, just like we saw, and just be aware it's not a conspiracy theory, it's what's really happening. And in the name of advancement to science. And I was at an event with Tony Robbins, one of his platinum partner events, was taking care of him for his highest level. And he had some of the greatest leaders, everything from Peter Diamandis, he speak heads of financial institutions to talk about the futures. And Peter Diamandis said how they can now put vibrational elements in the brain and trigger it so a person can move a limb they couldn't move, which is great. He said, but eventually what we do is 0 points can happen where artificial intelligence exceeds what human intelligence is. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. And he said, so we'll be able to have put implant in your brain where you'll have all information you need at any time, because you'll be part of the meta structure systems, have access to anything instantly, anything, even you think it, you already have it. And your mind will be able to focus on it. Leaving you able to possibly move things around, telekinesis and things like that. You just think about it. And someone raised their hand and said, well, how well are Facebook and Google and stuff doing with giving us free information or access?
Right.
The challenge is our science is put in a model of control and dominance.
Right.
These are
Right.
tolerances and everything. And our Padre Ligio, you met Padre Ligio, one of my heroes,
Yes.
in Italy, and 40 years ago, 50 years ago, he said the biggest challenge of the world will be technology will develop faster than people's morality or their ethics. And that is dangerous. That's the end of days, as he said there.
Right.
So what is the matrix?
Which is, with everything that's gone on in the last couple of years, us being more coherent is vital. And then here's more than ever has it vital. Here's the next question that's really related to that, which is not correcting something. What you've said so frequently, and you've said this in many audiences, is being consistent with the original impulse of chiropractic. Can you share a little bit about or expand upon what that means?
Yes. Well, it was not an accident that D. Palm was the magnetic healer. He dealt with body energies. Yeah. And that he linked to structural distortion to what's going on. Let's start with that. And at the time of Palmer, I just want to put some times. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, you had the Impressionistic era in art. It was heresy, it was sacrilegious, so to speak, to be able to capture the light of the moment with Monet and Renoir and Manet and Seurat. And what they did those times, for example, watch one cathedral or water lilies. You would normally paint carefully one color coat. Dutch paint is used like a brown, different ones, different colors. Let that dry. You paint something, let it dry, paint something, they mix them up. They try to capture light of the moment, the transient, magical moment. You had the writings of Thoreau, the writings of many different people talking about a connection, communities, the laws of compensation by Thoreau, which is really karma. You had the major form of medicine in America was homeopathy. Before Standard Oil came involved, get from the AMA, the medical industry, the pharmaceutical company, eventually have $1,000 pill. Because homeopathy, which is a very valid system, didn't work on a symptom, a series of vibrations that were at a very low level where there's not even a mole or molecule, that substance there, water keeps the vibration of it. And it's about the whole gestalt of how the person speaks the world with disease. When this happens, what else happens? You give the smallest amount, the less it was, the more powerful it is, because it affects the vibrational state consistent with more mental impulse and vitalistic theory. And what happened was, since it couldn't be, the first thing the AMA was formed to eliminate the provisional schools, which were ones teaching homeopathy. And all the schools that would sell petroleum-based products and pharmaceuticals would be credited. And by the way, the next push of the actual FDA, I've heard from some other people, is to eliminate homeopathy. You see, if it's free, if it's readily available, if it's what God gave us, it can't be patented. Therefore, we learn it's not valuable.
Right.
Okay, so it's interesting. So that came out. 1895, magnetism was around there. Magnetic healing was a big thing at that time. People were working with the fields. There was an influence from the East, from India was coming in, starting to come in around that time in the early 1900s. You had people from India, gurus coming in, you had some of the people of the Sufi religion coming in, talking about blending all religions together in experience and dance of this. At that time, you had Einstein saying energy and matter are one. That they're one. Basically, we are frozen light. In the original principle of chiropractic, they really talk about helping the innate, there's a universal intelligent all matter, given its properties, its vibrational essence and everything. It's its signature. And that the first aspect of chiropractic was speaking about a vibrational experience, vibration being disturbed by the environment. This is how the nervous system works. Example, vibration in the brain, of the universal wisdom of everything that we're made of and connect to.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a distortion in the system, if you stretch the neuroskeleton, then that by mental impulse, the perfect perfection of it cannot express itself through the system, and the orchestration meant by the nerves will not express itself.
Mm-hmm.
You have the one old Reggie Gold lecture, lay lecture, sperm and egg get together, form 1, 2, 4, they keep dividing. The morula develops, you have a streak. Before any organ develops, information from universal intelligence is formulated and adapted by your mental impulse, which really is an innate impulse, not no mental impulse. Nerve impulses are secondary to that, almost artifacts of that. But from that point on, the morphology of every cell, and I say the morphology of your life with enough energy,
Mm-hmm.
is associated with the ability of vibrational information through a mental impulse being expressed in the body, interpreted, analyzed, and personified. Whether it be the heart cell becoming the heart cells, stem cells organized based upon this connection of vibrational orchestration of the universe. So with that in mind, and DT said, chiropractic is progressive. It's always progressing. Even the astral plane is progressive. So the idea of the adjustment, I believe it was an error to put it into healthcare. I think it should have been more social science, how you adapt to live life, which
Mm-hmm.
changes the way you feel also there. Okay, at the time, but we couldn't put it at that time. Or healthcare has to change to the whole life. So the original intention was to have access to the self-organizing wisdom. So that person's physiology, the body, the psyche, the field, the essence of that person can align, not just the spine, but align with the force that organizes and have an experience, a direct experience of the organizing force of creation with an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
So that they know, not believe.
I just picked up because I have this sitting here. It's all torn up, but I mentioned this in my presentation at Mile High. What you talked about, it spurred this for me. And when I was putting together, and nobody can see it because it's been so worn and read so often, this book, the re-enchantment of the world. Oh, people can read it there. What you just described is exactly that, which was my original impulse to be a chiropractor, because he talked about in this book by Morris Berman that there was a disenchantment with the world. First, the world was seen as alive, and it was this animism and awe of the world. And then there was a disenchantment that happened, which came with Newtonian physics and with industrial age. And then a re-enchantment is pending and coming, and the re-enchantment's needed, which also embraces science, doesn't discount science, but also embraces the having enchantment with the world again, which is so much of what you just said.
The purpose of the matrix is to destroy enchantment.
Right.
You see, you've been trying to change consciousness on Earth as long as humans have been around for many years, and it's never worked. Because what really creates it is having more available energy for them to organize with the opportunity to do that. That's really what happens there. And the first tier of human consciousness, which is right now is death throes, the dragon, the dinosaur's dead, but it's whipping its tail and its jaws are still biting to control everything. It's based upon assumption.
Right.
What's no difference? The difference in chiropractic is these two different tiers. Okay? The first tier of consciousness and of how we use energy is based upon the assumption that there is a limitation of resources and we must compete with one another for resources. And there's two resources, energy and information.
Right.
There is a religious golden calf that the physical world, the physical body is the main thing. And if you bind enough and control enough access to information, energy from enough people, then you will be able to be successful and powerful and bind it for yourself. And you bind that, then you get the unbound riches. You get the enchantment only if you have bound enough and taken from someone else, because it's a limitation and scarcity. The only way, and all the challenge you have with whether it be racism, sexism, all the isms, or the isms trying to attack the isms, okay, whatever it is, what all that's about is who's going to have the narrative, who's going to have the control, who's going to have the power within that first year, just arguing who has control of that. And try to punish those who don't have it there. The job of all the regulatory agencies is to bind the energy in a certain way to keep the matrix going, which means you cannot have enough energy that goes to the higher brain or get that spark of light that activates the hallucinogens and the opiates in you that love does and caring for someone else does. And which hopefully the chiropractic adjustment is doing more often than you would imagine. Okay, yeah. And the only way it gives up the first year gives up its power is through force and violence. The only way you're going to be great is someone who has a backstory who has a backstory of abuse or breaking apart. So they rip them open early in life to crack them open to allow the light to go in both directions. Only thing they identified with the way they were cracked open, rather at that particular moment, the organizing wisdom universe said, you have to know there's something more to be enchanted with, but there wasn't enough energy. And everyone told them the reason they messed up is because they were cracked open, but the angels or the largest sister wanted to make sure this person knew spirit. And the only way is to be humbled enough and be enchanted. And everything we learn in personal development is that we are the thing who get what we want, which is also a poison by binding it.
Right.
We're here now. So what you're seeing around the world is the elite around the world in all different areas are trying to control things. And I'll say this on the video. I just started an interview with Dr. Fauci, and please read Bobby Kennedy's book, Real Anthony Fauci, and watch his TV network, the Children's Health Defense Fund. All research, extraordinary research things. And Fauci just recently said, when he's questioned about some contradictions, said, well, it's never about the mask that way. It's just showing that who has the power and control.
Right. Yeah, and bring that back to chiropractic. You know, a lot of what goes on professionally in our politics or our profession is who's disenchanted with the adjustment and who's enchanted with the adjustment.
And what's your conversation about? Every thought, every emotion, everything you do is the exact algorithm, is produced by the exact algorithm for how much energy you have. And with that, the shape of this intensity of spine actually also is how much energy you're having. And that's why I realized years ago, the next tier, which is here, it's just being launched now. It's new. The immaterial is primary, the mental impulse rather than nerve impulse. Universal innate wisdom, the field around the body is primary. Everything of the seen universe, everything that's real starts with the invisible impulse, a thought. What's pulling the strings? I've studied this for years, and that's what any way I could get that original impulse of chiropractic happening, whether it be subluxation or not, in any discipline in the world, I'm doing it. Not to dishonor oh no, now you're someplace else, you're taking away from us. No, that's the wrong idea. We're adding value so people get a bigger vision and recognize why a healthcare system and a life system needs the spine to be in the way it is. The next tier of consciousness, pure awareness of the nature of the energetics. How you use energy, what drops it, erases it, how your body uses energy. Knowing that, being aware of it. That before it becomes a thought, before it's interpreted, it is just energy to the universe. When you get to just be aware of it as it is, without the hunger to change it, to make it be to transform, without trying to transform a person, see them as they are first, and they will reveal themselves. Suddenly, instead of having to be ripped apart for the light, when you purely recognize the energy of creation and be with that and understand this is why when I get messed up, my spine goes like that. I breathe that way. What is your recipe for doing the energy or blocking energy or liberating it? When you do that, become aware of it, acknowledge it, share it with people, share your healing experiences of how you got messed up. And it's not because of circumstances, what you did, what didn't do with the energetics. And accept that every time I go from the past, I have pain. I go to the future. This every time I think this, it's nothing more. We're playing an app. So freaking change the app by the way you focus, I learned all of this through helping people with the care we've gotten. I said, how does it apply to big systems? So now, in this next tier, instead of having to unbind, unlearn something, to rip apart, have trauma first.
Right.
The innate intelligence, organizing wisdom of the mind, of the emotion, of the spirit, with enough energy, simply you just know. You know, it doesn't be taught. You have access to enough creativity. The other people converge to you. Like, there's no such thing as a single bird flying. It's a whole flock. And they take turns. The fish that doesn't school is called dinner. While you're trying to develop your individuality to prove something to yourself, you're pulling away from the whole way we've been organized.
Mm-hmm.
In this next year, the purpose of money, what's the purpose of money? To buy stuff, to buy shit, to be liked? What's the purpose of money? Ultimately, to have a different opportunity to experience life differently and experience the enchantment now. That's what it's about.
Right.
You can do it now. You don't have to wait for a disease to go away.
Mm-hmm.
You don't tell a patient, you've been sick for this many years, for generations, it's taken many years to get well. No, healing is only instantaneous. Your story is stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they can heal in spite of you.
Right.
Or with you.
Right.
So in this next tier, money is really about having access to.
And see, it goes
and
back
that's power.
to how much
power is giving, helping people access to. What the bigger problem in the world, and revolution happens every time when certain groups of people have less access to and other people have more access to. And everything you're hearing now, all the challenges, conditioning by the matrix to make us be okay with us only certain elites having access to.
Right. Right.
Everything else is story and understand. And I'm not making it wrong, but this is necessary because we have not claimed enchantment as a society, as people. We have not changed what freedom is. We no longer honor the organizing wisdom of the universe. And now, the next year's time is up. They don't know it consciously, but they're acting in survival.
Right. Right.
They're doing everything because they're terrified.
Yep. Exactly. And that's
you
happening in so many areas.
Force. You liberate that force. Please, when you adjust someone, don't think it is ending that person or their spine. Because as you become aware, acknowledge, and accept the system that they're really in and how we can make them impact, the volume practice is not just your office. The volume practice is all of humanity. And this is not a philosophy. It's real because now quantum physics works more than Newtonian. Quantum entanglement, what happens. Mm-hmm. And perhaps it's necessary because we've done all these things to interfere with the ability to have the enchantment or the awe of this world, that we have to be willing to lose everything. And every 80 to 100 years, we go through the same cycle between winter and summer in life. Mm-hmm. People have to learn that they lose all of what was important to find out what is important. You don't need to go into winter to find out what's important.
Right.
Learn it now.
Right. This is so juicy and so much for people. And I have to tell you, if you want even more, certainly check out the episodes that Dr. Donny is doing right now about the pain of avoiding pain, because a lot of what's going on in the world is from avoiding pain for a very long time. And
and this series is about the 4 types of pain. The pain of avoiding pain was the first one. It's really getting to the other side of pain. It's pain. It's really pain itself is a conditioned response to an energy drop.
Mm-hmm.
And for how many people have you been rewarded for being sick as compared to being self-reliant?
Yeah.
And people, if you have a problem, the family loves you. Okay. So understand, most people, pain is another purpose of all pain is one simple thing, is to interrupt your life. That's all. It's to interrupt your life. A time out to get more energy in organizing wisdom. If pain is so terrible, actually it's pretty good. It's interrupting your life. But I want to go back to where I was before. Well, that's what we did. That's all purpose of medicine, to restore you to prior minimal state.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your view of the spine? What do you want to bring it to? When I graduated chiropractic college in 1977, I started practicing in 78. I realized that I did not know what a healthy spine was supposed to be like or optimal. I had no idea. No idea what it was supposed to feel like or look like.
Right. Right.
If you don't know that, how could you know if you're achieving? And how anybody knowing me or hearing of me, you know that I am unreasonable. Because I seek extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my standard.
Right. Right.
So what
Well,
happens?
and BJ Palmer talked about BJ said the unreasonable man makes history.
And the inhibited stops history.
Yes. So be uninhibited. Well, thank you so much again for joining us on the Mile High podcast and at Mile High each year. And also, we encourage people to learn more about Epienergetics and all their programs, as well as Network Spinal, and certainly dive into the program that Dr. Donny Epstein has going on now. And again, we will, we'll have all that in the notes along with the email that and the blog that goes along with the podcast. So we look forward to connecting with you all there more, and certainly mark your calendar early for Mile High 11. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Donny Epstein.
It's my pleasure to be here. And Danny, thanks for making this all happen and creating a platform for chiropractors that includes healing and includes souls on board first.
That's it. Thank you. And everyone, again, hit subscribe. You never know what is going to show up on your Thursday Night Mile High podcast. I know this is one people will listen to again and again. And we never want to miss any Mile High take. And of course, make sure you clear your calendar to be at Mile High 11 in September of 2023. We look forward to seeing you there, and keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic.